So, welcome from Sherry Forsyth, life coach in South Africa, to the first in my series on. In fact, the series is so new it doesn't have a name yet, but it's on being the very best that you can be, embracing the uniqueness of who you are, not trying to please other people, but standing in your strength. Living up to your full potential. So if any of the people who have joined me live or subsequently would like to send suggestions for the what the series is going to be called, I always, as you know, welcome any kind of suggestions. I would also like to thank you all very much for the incredible response that I've had to the previous series I did on grief. Thank you so much for sharing my videos and continuing to do so. The response has been absolutely amazing, and I'm very grateful for the part that you guys have played in that. So thank you very much. So we're going to talk today about what inspires you. What inspires me? I'm going to give you a little bit of time during the talk today to just ponder about that. And on the way to making sure that we're the best that we can be, one of the things is, well, what inspires us to do so? So I'm going to start with just talking a little bit about the difference between inspiration and motivation. And so I am going to have to use the glasses, and as I have a few definitions that I'm wanting to touch on. So there is a difference between the two. One of the definitions of inspiration is the process of being mentally stimulated or to do or feel something, especially to do something creative. So it might be pushing your boundaries a little bit. In other words, we're looking at, maybe someone or something that gives you ideas, new ideas you hadn't thought of. Or it might be a sudden flash of an idea that jumps out at you. Inspiration could also be someone that people admire and maybe want to be more like. It could be that aha moment that jumps out at you, which eggs us onto greater ideas, new ways of thinking of things in order to reach our full potential or the potential of our business. So some words that can be used synonymously with inspiration are words like inventiveness, innovation, ingenuity, imagination, and individuality. So usually we have something outside us seems to act as the catalyst that inspires us. And so when we're looking at inspiration, the first thing we have to know is that inspiring people all started as normal, ordinary people. And then they followed their heart. They followed their desire, their ideas, and in doing so have done extraordinary things. So a part of inspiration is that we dare to be different. We dare to do things differently. We're not afraid to try new things, possibly even if they fail, because we know that life is not perfect and we're not going to get it right immediately. Another aspect of people who have been or are very inspiring is they're not afraid to step into who they really are. In other words, they're not afraid of being really authentic. They're not trying to fit in with society norms or certain peer groups or whatever group is the kind of the hot group of the moment. They are very happy to be themselves. And later on in the series, we will be doing, one of the talks will be on authenticity and what it is and what it means to us. The other thing that makes people who inspire others stand apart is that they feel the need to make a difference. So it doesn't matter how big or how little a difference they made, that is what inspires them to continue. The last point I want to make is that very often we fail to see the greatness within ourselves. And if we can just link with that or move into that space, we can achieve the most amazing things. This is very much linked to a TED talk that I listened to this week by a chap called Alan de Bolton, who was talking about the kinder and gentler philosophy of success. And what he says is the first thing is you've got to be authentic and you've got to see what lies inside of you that you do really well. And then follow that to greatness. It's a TED talk well worth listening. His name again is Alain de Bolton. Okay, so that is what inspiration is pretty much in a nutshell. And I welcome Donald from Cape Town. Lovely to have you joining us. So we move on to what motivation is as different from inspiration. So motivation, very generally and very simply put, is the why behind what we're doing. If we look at the fact that motivation comes from the word motive, which means the needs, the desires, the wants or drives within us, what we are looking at with motivation is the reason for why we do various things. There can be an inducement and an incentive to motivate us, and that is then the whole topic of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, which is beyond the scope of this chat, but I'm sure that we'll get into it at some stage. So another definition of motivation is enthusiasm for doing something, the excitement to want to be involved in something. Once again, the need or reason for doing something, and the willingness for doing something. So it really is the why we are being moved in a certain area. So if we look at the difference between inspiration and motivation, with the motivation being the why we are doing it, the inspiration is the, oh wow, I've suddenly come up with this amazing idea and now I'm going to try it out. So if we follow along, and today we're going to be dealing mainly with the inspiration, what inspires you? I'm going to ask you maybe to just sit quietly if you can, where you are, or maybe later today when you get a quiet moment. Close your eyes and think about what is it that really inspires you. And it can inspire you maybe in different areas of your life. So while you're sitting quietly, I'm going to just quietly throw out a few things for you to think about that might give you clues as to what your inspiration is. So take a deep breath, close your eyes, and try and switch off everything else that's happening in your life for the next minute or two. So what is it that inspires me? Is it possibly a higher power, whatever you take that as being? Up until the current civilization, most people were inspired by a higher power. Today, in today's world, most of us are inspired by each other. It's become a very egocentric world. So possibly, is it a higher power? And what is that power that inspires you? Could it maybe be a person you know, a person you have a lot of contact with, and you love what they do and how they do it, and they inspire you to be your best self when you're around them? Or is it possibly a famous person who has achieved such awesome and amazing things, and you would like to mold yourselves on them? It might be very beautiful music or piece of art that inspire you to greater heights. It might be what inspires you is that you just want to make a difference in a particular area of your life. One of the inspirations might be to live authentically according to certain principles. So what does inspire you? Can be a very simple thing. And so as we continue this chat, you can open your eyes when you're ready. If you do know what does inspire you, I ask you to just put it into the comment box below the video. And in doing so, you may well help other people who are not sure what is inspiring them. In fact, they may have no inspiration whatsoever. And so if you put your word or two about what inspires you, you may well catalyze somebody else into becoming into a slightly more inspired state. And that's what we're after. When I was speaking about in the grief chats, I was talking about let's start a ripple of knowledge of grief in our world. And let's start a second ripple of let's all be inspired. Let's all be happy to be who we are, in our strengths, being able to make a difference in our special way, in our area. And the way we can start doing this is by helping to inspire each other. So when you've given it some thought, and if you have any ideas about what inspires you, I would so welcome you putting it into the comment box, and let's see if we can start a ripple of inspiration in our world. So in addition to what inspires you, the last part I want to speak about is what do you aspire to be? So we might have someone that does inspire us or something that inspires us, but to do what? And so we can maybe aspire to live our lives according to certain principles. We will always be aspiring. Remember, we're never going to be perfect. But there might be certain principles, like the principle of honesty, the principles of living a very compassionate life, all those lovely soft words that can make such a difference. So those principles might be what we are aspiring to once we've become inspired. We might be aspiring to certain material things. So we might aspire to be really building our business so that we can make a certain amount of money in order to live in a certain home, drive a certain car, and maybe our aspirations are purely material. Usually material goods are less fleeting than the more emotional or principled aspirations, but they can be a huge source of motivation or inspiration. We might also be aspiring to success, whatever that means in our life. And so in order to do that, we use other people, other ideas, art, music, etc., to inspire us to have the new ideas, have the courage to create and do things our way. We don't have to follow what society has in mind for us. The other things that we can aspire to is to be in a certain emotional state. So we might find that we are far too volatile, or we feel maybe that we're far too negative. We maybe are not communicating well because our own stuff gets in the way. I mean, the list here is obviously endless. But we might choose to be we might aspire to be in a better emotional state. So we might want to be calmer, as in CALMER, not CHARMA. We might want to be calmer in our emotional state. We might want to be a person that can focus far more on the positive than on the negative. And that emotional state will enable us to more easily step into our strengths. We might want to be in an emotional state where we just generally are a little bit happier. And once again, we probably will do chats on some of these in future sessions going forward. So I want to ask you again, what is it that inspires you? Is it a person? Is it a thing? And when you've come up with that answer, I ask you to put it into the comment box for us, for me, and for others, so that hopefully we can continue building this ripple of excitement and inspiration. And so I want to leave you with the thought that in our lives, to try and aspire to always being proud of the way we are, who we are, what we stand for, but particularly how we are acting. So to always be proud of the way we've done things, especially if times are quite tough for us. So in order to always be proud of who we are, very often we need to take a little bit of time, just that little split second, to choose what we are doing or how we are doing it. So as always, I thank you for your time and joining me today. I ask you, if you found the video to be of value, to please share it, to follow me on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram. And as always, your ideas and suggestions are very welcome. So if you have any particular topics that you would like me to talk about regarding being your best person, reaching your full potential, living your best life, I welcome you to either message me in the comment box, or if you would like to drop me an email, my email is Sherry Forsyth, CHERRY FORSYTH sherryforsyth@gmail.com. I welcome your suggestions, your comments, your ideas. And until the same time next week, I wish you a fabulous week further. And for all the women in South Africa, a fabulous Women's Day, Women's Month, as we are entering the last week of our Women's Month. So thank you for joining me, and have an awesome week.